totally dilapidated historic houses.
Oh, yeah, like the ultimate fixer-uppers.
Right. You walk in, the roof is visibly caving in. There are literally raccoons living in the kitchen, but you don't see the endless money pit sitting right in front of you.
Oh, of course not. You just see the restored mahogany staircase.
Exactly. You only see the potential. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at chapter 11 of the book, The Mistakes Women Make That Are Holding Them Back.
And the title of this chapter is Loving Someone into Their Potential at Your Expense.
Which is such a good title. We're going to explore why that exact same fixer-upper blindness happens to brilliant, ambitious women in relationships. And, how to tell if you're actually building a partnership or just funding a permanent renovation project.
It's just a really profound dynamic to unpack, whether you are currently navigating a tricky relationship or maybe reflecting on past patterns, or even if you're just fascinated by human psychology. We're going to dive into a really sharp, actionable framework for this.
Yeah, and the central phenomenon here, this idea of investing deeply in a partner's unrealized potential, it has this fascinating irony to it. Because, my initial assumption was that this happens to people who are just naive, like people who maybe lack relationship experience.
Right, that's what you would think.
But the material points out the exact opposite. This happens to the most intelligent, highly capable people.
Yeah, the women who fall most deeply into this trap are frequently the most empathetic. They are the ones most capable of seeing the best in people.
Which is usually a good thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. That capacity to see someone's underlying potential is a genuine gift. If you are managing a team, it builds incredible
Oh,
employees.
yeah, for sure. If you're a mentor, it completely transforms careers. You're able to see a version of someone they haven't even realized yet.
Exactly. But in a romantic partnership, applying that same managerial vision gets incredibly messy.
Yeah, because they aren't your employee.
Right. In a romantic relationship, that gift only builds something beautiful when it is met with equal investment. The partner has to be actively working toward that version of themselves.
And if they aren't.
If they aren't, the woman's empathy actually becomes the very thing that traps her. She just starts filling in the gaps.
Well, let's talk about what filling those gaps actually looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Because the dynamic described here is one where the woman basically becomes the circumstances the partner is waiting for.
Yeah, she becomes the big break he's been hoping to catch. She morphs into the entire emotional and logistical infrastructure of his life.
Wow.
She manages his mood so he can be creative. She buffers his stress. She pays the rent while he is, figuring things out.
Is constantly figuring it out.
Right. And over time, this accumulation of very reasonable sounding accommodations just quietly restructures her entire life around someone else's journey.
It feels almost like, the book has this great quote, "Love is not a renovation project." And it made me think, it's like acting as an angel investor for a startup.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
But specifically, a startup that absolutely refuses to ever launch a product.
And you just keep pouring funding in week after week.
Right. You keep funding the research and development phase forever, and in the process, you end up completely bankrupting your own successful company.
Yeah, that captures the danger perfectly. Because when a partner never actualizes, the vision of who they could become transforms into the relationship's primary currency.
You're essentially trading your concrete reality for a fantasy.
Exactly. The woman's own needs, her own career growth, her own becoming, it all ends up as collateral damage because all her resources are diverted to this perpetually stalling project.
And that collateral damage isn't just an abstract emotional concept either. To really understand this, we need to look at the literal, tangible damage.
The brutal math of it all.
Yes, the brutal math. The book provides a case study about a woman named Sade, and the numbers are just a massive wake-up call.
Making the invisible visible is so crucial here.
So Sade met her partner at 27. He was charming, intelligent, and naturally in the middle of a transitional phase.
Aren't they always?
Always.
Yeah.
And she stayed for 6 years. 6 years. We get a breakdown of what investing in his potential actually cost her. She covered more than 60% of their joint living costs for 4 years.
Which is a huge burden to carry alone.
Yeah, and that equated to roughly $48,000. She also made business loans that were never repaid, totaling $14,000.
Oh, wow.
And she funded their holidays and experiences, primarily by herself, to the tune of $8,000.
The direct financial hit is staggering, just on its own. But the career cost is where the reality of this trap truly reveals itself.
Because of his instability and needing to manage his life, she actually turned down an international secondment. a major career-defining experience.
And the estimated income impact of missing that promotion.
Over $60,000 over 5 years. Plus, she delayed starting her own business by 3 years.
So when you add up just the tangible, measurable costs, you are looking at over $130,000.
Mind-blowing.
And that doesn't even touch the intangible costs. Her creative projects sat untouched for 4 years. Her friendships were quietly neglected because she just didn't have the energy.
Her sense of self was completely eroded. 6 years of her prime professional decade were spent entirely on someone else's unfulfilled potential.
And the bitter twist to Sud's story is that the relationship eventually ended, and he is currently in another transitional phase.
Just with someone else.
Right. He didn't change, he just found a new investor.
He really did. But I have to play devil's advocate for a second here, because when I first read that breakdown, a part of me recoiled a bit.
How so?
Well, isn't it a bit unromantic to tally up love on a spreadsheet like this? To sit there calculating missed salaries and holiday expenses, it feels so transactional, maybe even disloyal to the concept of unconditional love.
You know, a lot of people feel that initial discomfort. We are so conditioned to believe that true love doesn't keep score.
Right, exactly.
But clear-eyed accounting is not disloyal. It is a required survival mechanism in these situations. Because love, combined with the sunk cost fallacy, creates a phenomenally powerful psychological cocktail that just completely obscures reality.
That makes sense.
Unconditional love applies to who a person is, not to perpetually funding their lack of action. You are absolutely allowed to know what your love is costing you.
So if the financial reality is that devastating, like if you are losing over 100 grand and sacrificing your own career trajectory, the obvious question is why anyone would stay.
Right. Looking at just the math ignores the deep psychological roots that keep people trapped.
Let's get into those roots. The author synthesizes 4 key reasons we stay in this waiting room.
The sunk cost fallacy we just mentioned is the primary root, and it applies to human connection just as strongly as it applies to business or the stock market.
Because the more you have invested financially, emotionally, in terms of years of your youth, the harder it becomes to leave.
Exactly. Because leaving forces you to realize the loss, you have to admit those resources are gone.
So you end up asking yourself, was the past worth it?
Which is the wrong question. People get stuck trying to justify the past. The only question that actually matters in that moment is the future I am building worth staying for?
That's a powerful shift.
If the answer is no, throwing more years at the problem won't fix the years you've already lost.
Which leads directly into the second psychological hook, the profound belief that love can change someone. I mean, we see this everywhere in media. The idea that if you just love the brooding, struggling guy enough, your love will magically transform him into a stable, actualized partner.
It's a really pervasive myth. Love can certainly support change. It provides a safe environment for someone who's already doing the work. But love cannot create the change.
Right. People only alter their core behaviors when they decide to, driven entirely by their own internal motivation.
You cannot force a substitute for someone else's internal drive, no matter how much you sacrifice.
And then there's the fear of being alone. There's this intense cultural narrative that an unfulfilling, draining relationship is somehow still a safer bet than singlehood, especially for women as they get older.
The societal messaging is intense. But the reality is that the loneliness of being with the wrong person, literally sitting in the same room with someone who cannot meet you halfway, is far more corrosive to your mental health than the loneliness of being single.
Because you're just constantly drained.
Yeah. A woman who is alone is actually available. She is available for her own growth, her own peace, and eventually for a connection that actually fits her.
But it's so hard to see that when you're in it, because of the fourth reason, identity entanglement. After years of centering someone else's journey, your own identity becomes entirely enmeshed with fixing them.
This is often the most terrifying hurdle. You have to ask yourself, who am I if I am not the person believing in him? What do I even want if I stop managing what he needs?
When your entire daily routine and your sense of value are built around being the supportive pillar, separating is genuinely disorienting.
You aren't just losing a partner, you are losing the role you've played for years.
And there's another element to this that feels incredibly manipulative, even if it's not intentional. The occasional glimpse of the person you fell for.
Oh, the glimpses. Yes.
Reminds me of sitting at a casino. It's like playing a rigged slot machine that is actively draining your bank account, but right when you're about to walk away, it pays out a tiny jackpot, a flash of his true self.
Just enough to keep you hooked.
Yeah. And that tiny win Keeps you sitting at the stool, pulling the lever over and over again.
Biologically, that is exactly what is happening. What you are describing is intermittent reinforcement.
Like in behavioral psychology.
Yes. Predictable rewards are nice, but unpredictable rewards completely hijack the brain's dopamine pathways. When you don't know when the next glimpse of a loving, capable partner is coming, your brain becomes hyper-focused on waiting for it. It creates a trauma bond.
So you aren't actually in a relationship anymore. You are in what the author perfectly describes as a waiting room.
Exactly. Hope, in the absence of consistent action, is not a relationship strategy. It is just a waiting room. You deserve a partner who is actively building a life with you, not one who is permanently in the process of becoming capable of doing so.
Okay, let's pivot to the practical application of this. Now that we know the mechanics of the trap and the neurochemistry keeping us stuck in it, how do we diagnose our own situations?
The book provides a very clear framework.
Right. It makes a really stark distinction between offering genuine support and falling into a subsidy.
The starkest boundary here is the 12-month rule. The author states that if you have been financially subsidizing a partner for more than 12 months with no clear, agreed-upon plan for how and when that dynamic changes, you do not have a partnership. You have a dependency.
Wait, 12 months seems potentially arbitrary, though. Like, what if your partner is in medical school or going through a grueling multi-year career change that you both agreed was necessary?
Yeah.
That takes way longer than a year.
That is a crucial caveat, and the book addresses it. The 12-month rule isn't saying that all financial imbalance must end in exactly a year. It's about the lack of an agreed-upon plan.
Oh, I see.
Medical school has a timeline. It has measurable progress. Healthy support looks like carrying more of the weight for a defined period, while your partner actively works toward a clear mutual goal. You are communicating about it.
So support involves emotional encouragement, but it also includes honest, sometimes difficult feedback when patterns aren't working. It means clearly defining what better looks like together.
Subsidy, on the other hand, is carrying that weight indefinitely. There is no timeline. You find yourself swallowing your honest observations just to protect his feelings or to avoid a fight.
You just keep the peace.
Right. You treat your own goals as permanently negotiable around his endless instability. And the biggest red flag of a subsidy is that you are having the exact same conversation about what needs to change year after year with zero meaningful result.
Okay, so let's say a listener realizes they are in the subsidy category. Bringing this up seems like a conversational minefield. Saying something like, hey, I'm subsidizing your life and I need a return on my investment, isn't exactly going to go over well.
No, definitely not. The pro tip from the text is that you don't start with an ultimatum, and you certainly don't start with an accusation. You start with one direct, loving, and specific statement about the dynamic.
What does that sound like in practice?
Something simple like, I want to talk about how we're handling our lives. I've been carrying more than my share, and I need us to have a real plan for how that changes.
Wait, so you just drop that reality check and then sit there in silence? That sounds agonizing. What are they supposed to do with that?
It is agonizing, but the silence is the diagnostic test. You stop talking and you simply listen to how they respond. What you hear next and how you are heard will tell you everything about the reality of your relationship.
Because a true partner who has just gotten a little too comfortable will hear that, feel empathy, and work with you to build a plan.
Exactly. And someone who is content using you as a subsidy will respond with defensiveness. They will deploy guilt trips, remind you of how stressed they are, or offer empty, grandiose promises about how they're going to change the world tomorrow. The reaction gives you your answer.
Getting that answer leads to the most critical part of this entire process, reclaiming your own life. Getting out of the waiting room requires untangling your identity from theirs.
Which is hard work.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But the diagnostic tools suggested here, while intense, are designed to reconnect you with the person you were before you started shrinking.
Radical honesty is uncomfortable, but it is the only way out. The first action step is to literally audit the last 12 months. Write down the hard numbers of what you contributed financially and logistically versus what was contributed to you.
And the second tool really struck me. You have to identify just one major career or life decision you made strictly to accommodate your partner's needs or timeline.
And then calculate what that accommodation actually cost your own trajectory.
It breaks the illusion that your sacrifices aren't impacting your own potential. And the third step is to write down 3 of your most important personal goals. Not relationship goals, not household maintenance tasks, things entirely for you.
Then ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you actively put energy toward them?
Doing this feels remarkably similar to that moment on an airplane when the cabin loses pressure and the oxygen mask drop. You've been frantically trying to secure the mask on a passenger who completely refuses to breathe on their own.
And you are slowly suffocating in the process.
Eventually, you have to make the conscious, terrifying decision to stop fighting them, put your own mask back on, and take a deep breath so you don't pass out.
Right.
The immediate action step suggested here is doing exactly that. Take one action this week that is entirely for you. A class, a morning alone, sending an application. One single act of investment in your own becoming.
And for anyone worrying that they have lost too much time or that the independent version of themselves is gone forever, the book offers a deeply encouraging reality. The woman who keeps becoming never truly gets lost.
She's just dormant.
Exactly. She is waiting in the goals you paused and the ambitions you shelved to make room for someone else.
Which brings us back to Saad.
Saad, who spent 6 years of her prime waiting for her partner to arrive, did find herself again. It wasn't instant. There were months where she felt completely unmoored without the chaotic structure of managing his life. Her identity was entangled.
Of course.
But one evening, about 8 months after the relationship ended, she finally opened her laptop and started typing out her own business plan.
Because she realized she had been acting as an angel investor for the wrong person.
She realized she had always been the most interesting project in the room. She had simply been too busy working on someone else's foundation to notice her own potential. A wound can be a window.
You are the most interesting project in the room. That is a phenomenal realization to carry forward. To recap our mission today, we unpacked the potential trap where brilliant women subsidize unrealized potential out of misplaced empathy.
We looked at the brutal math and career costs of playing angel investor to a stalled partner.
We explored the neurological and psychological traps like intermittent reinforcement and identity entanglement that keep people in the waiting room.
And we established a framework to determine if you are offering mutual support or an indefinite subsidy.
It requires a difficult accounting of your own life, but it is necessary work. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. At the very end of this section, there's a teaser for the next chapter.
It introduces a concept that really challenges a lot of how we view personal growth.
Yeah, the upcoming chapter focuses on choosing peace over standards and tricking ourselves into calling it maturity.
Ouch, that stings just hearing the title.
It really does. It forces a mirror up to our behavior. Think about your own life right now, even beyond romantic relationships. Where else might you have stopped asking for what you actually need, simply because bringing it up causes friction?
Have you genuinely become a more easygoing, mature person, or have you simply lowered your expectations and learned to call your silence peace?
That question completely shifts how you view conflict and compromise. I encourage you to take that question with you today. Do the uncomfortable math, look at whose potential you are actually investing in, and remember that it is time to stop pouring your resources into a crumbling foundation. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.